This is by a YouTuber called Adam Mockler, young YouTuber who went out and interviewed some Trumpies. The first thing I want to say that I instantly noticed is how bad of a job this woman did on this eye makeup. Like, there's so much space between the edge of her eye and like where she lined out, you know?
Does it ever worry you guys when every single person and every single institution in America is against you, and the only person you can look up to is Donald Trump?
That's not happening. It's not.
You don't trust
Okay.
the FBI or the DOJ.
This one starts fake laughing, and then this one starts fake laughing. But look at her eyes. Look at the torture and anguish in this woman's eyes. Looking to her friend for approval and too.
Are you kidding?
Ladies, this is a gotcha interview they're trying to...
Did the term gotcha interview originate with Sarah Palin, or was that a thing before? Because I never remember hearing the term gotcha interview before Sarah Palin started using it. And, you know, like the stuff that she considered gotcha questions were so, like, she was just asked the most simple questions, just like, what magazines do you read? And she's just like, that's a gotcha question. It's like, no, it's not. It's really f***ing not. Anybody running for office. In fact, anybody in general should be able to answer. Like, even if you don't read at all, just be like, I don't really read, you know, newspapers and magazines, actually. You know, I get my news from, you know, this or that or some other source.
Make you look like idiots.
It's pretty clear what we're doing here. We're having like an exchange of ideas.
I felt like I had a staunch liberal interviewing me.
I only saw one question before she said that. I don't know what was asked before that. So maybe there were some staunch liberal questions before, but, you know, based on what I saw, it didn't really seem all that staunch liberal, but whatever. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
Here, but
So this Trump supporter stopped our debate, followed us around, and then told security we were harassing people. Watch what happens next.
so when it comes to election integrity, what is your strongest piece of evidence that the last election was stolen?
I did work the election.
Yeah, me too.
Iowa wasn't too bad, but when I went home and I watched the 2020 election, I was on Fox.
Well, when I saw that Trump lost, I realized the election was stolen because there's no way he could have lost because everyone loves him so much.
I'm not now, but I was then. I watched, and it wasn't the presidential race, and I saw the votes flip. I saw the votes flip from the Republican to the Democrat.
Dude, this was like discussed beforehand, too. This concept of the red mirage that was going to happen because the in-person voters were going to be predominantly Republican because Trump was out there telling his people, don't vote, don't use the mail-in, don't use the mail-in ballots, they're no good, they're bad, very bad, show up in person to vote. And so the people who actually showed up to vote were all, I mean, not all Trump supporters, but a lot more skewed towards Trump. And those results came in first. And then when the mail-in stuff started getting counted, it was skewed for Biden because Biden had encouraged his people to vote by mail. And it was a predicted phenomenon. It wasn't like this came out of left field and shocked people. It was predicted that this was going to happen. And it was predicted exactly how Trump was going to spin the narrative of it. And, you know, here we are, years and years later, still listening to the narrative being spun that way. And it's like the explanation is so easy to understand, and these people just refuse to understand it because they don't care to. They don't actually want to understand what happened. They only want to formulate some narrative wherein Trump was cheated out of his rightful victory, despite the fact that court after court after court after court, many of them Trump-appointed judges, have looked at this evidence and have roundly laughed it out of the courts because there is no evidence. There's no evidence whatsoever that the 2020 election was stolen. If there was evidence, then one of these Trump-appointed judges would have seized upon it and been like, holy shit, this is a huge deal. They stole the election. And that would be enormous That would be an enormous revelation. I don't even think most people who say it's stolen really believe it's stolen. I think for them it's just a form of cope and a form of them backing up each other's narratives, kind of like the same way religious people do with religion, you know?
So I saw it.
How confused do you think this lady gets by football games? Because she doesn't seem to understand how counting anything works. If I pause a football game during the first quarter, then come back to a different score during the fourth quarter, that doesn't mean the game was rigged.
That convinced
Doesn't it, though? I think it means exactly that, young man.
Video evidence too. I mean, you've got suitcases being pulled out from under after all of the poll watchers left and feeding ballots in. I mean, it's just
what? You know what's so funny about that? I know we all saw recently in the I think it was the Iowa results that there was in like a predominantly white, predominantly Trump sort of setting. It was it was Republican primary, so of course it was a predominantly Trump setting. They were just like throwing the ballots in a fucking paper bag, you know? Like a dude was just going around with a paper bag collecting people's ballots, and it's like these people have been bitching about election integrity for the last 3 years. Talking about, oh man, all these crazy shenanigans going on. But then they do something like just go around and collect ballots in a freaking paper bag held by some fucking doddering old man. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Oh, I guess it's fine when it's a bunch of white people voting for Trump. Then that's secure enough. But if that was like black people voting for Biden in the general election, they would be like, oh, my God, there is no integrity to our elections. Ah.
and there's so much more.
So
What are these haircuts? I have no room to talk right now because my up, but whatever. It's just got to grow out a little more.
How do you guys react when Trump brought all of these cases to different courts across America, and every single court that he brought his evidence to rejected him? So he even brought that case where they pulled a suitcase out from under the table, and when they took that to the court, when they watched all 16 hours of that footage, they realized that the Democrat and the Republican poll workers, because you work the polls, right? You know how Democrats and Republicans have to combine and they have to work together. They realized that these were placed there this morning and they were completely legitimate ballots. And this happened with over 60 different court cases where you think you have this 10-second snippet and you think it's the evidence, but then you bring it in and it's not. So what is that? How do you reconcile that?
She's going to do a little tap dance, right? Like the only thing she can really do is a little fucking because like there's not much you can really say there. I mean, look at her face. She's just like, I don't know what. All right, let's hear it.
I don't know a whole lot about what they brought in court.
Yeah.
Then shut up. If you don't know jack shit about what you're talking about, then don't fucking talk no more. Zip the lip, lock the lock, throw the fucking key in the trash, and let's not hear no more from you. Like you're going to go out there and say confidently the election was stolen. And then when there's the slightest, tiniest little bit of pushback to that, you're just like, I don't know nothing about that. It's like, huh? If you're going to make a bold declaration like that, you should probably have, I don't know, some facts fucking straight, right? Like just a few little facts straight maybe. So you actually can, when someone asks you a very simple, basic question like that, you can say, well, actually, and then have like a real answer. Even if it's going to be a bullshit answer, even if it's going to be sophistry, at least have something other than just like, I don't know. Fuck if I know, man. I don't know. All right.
I know, that's okay.
It was kind of kept quiet.
Yeah.
Just
It was kept quiet? No, it really wasn't fucking kept quiet. It was kind of a big story. It was kind of being covered, I don't know, fucking everywhere.
just know that everything was rejected, but I think a lot of the reason, at least what was reported, was that they didn't get to present the evidence.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
So this lady
They did present the evidence. What do you mean they didn't get to present the evidence? They did. They showed the evidence to the courts. The courts are like, this isn't evidence. We reject this. Like, I don't know what more you want. The court's just supposed to be like, oh, wow, yeah, this is really good stuff. And just lie and say like, oh, man, yeah. This is the smoking gun.
She just stumbled her way into my least favorite talking point. Out of the 60 plus cases that Trump brought to court, 30 of them didn't even meet the standards to proceed with the court hearing. And the judge's job is to look at the evidence provided, not to investigate. And there was no evidence.
Sometimes my concern is that when everyone that was...
Yeah, and of course, the judge looks at the evidence and says, there's no evidence here. There's not enough to even go further in this proceeding. And the Trumpists, or the, you know, whatever, the Trumpies, the MAGAs, the Chudleys, whatever you want to call them, they just declare based on that, oh, well, we weren't allowed to present our evidence. Like, you weren't allowed to present your evidence because you didn't have any. You weren't allowed to present your evidence because you didn't have a case, and it was summarily just looked at like, nah, this is trash. There's nothing here. There's nothing to proceed with.
Was in Trump's cabinet, people like Mike Pence, people like Rudy Giuliani, they even said to him, there's not enough voter fraud to overturn the election. And then after the election, Trump brings this to courts, and all the courts reject him. They did look at the evidence. They looked at all the footage and all the evidence. So sometimes, do you ever keep an open mind to the election not being stolen?
That never even has occurred to me because I saw too much stuff.
So it's never occurred.
What did you see? You saw too much stuff? Like, let's be real. What she means by she saw too much stuff is it didn't go her way. Trump didn't win, and so therefore it was stolen. That's as far as it really goes for this chick. It doesn't go any further than that. She doesn't need anything more than that. The fact that Trump didn't win is enough for her to declare that it was all a hoax, it was all a cheat, it was all a swindle. Because in any fair election, Trump would have, of course, won because everyone loves Trump, I guess. Even though considerable amounts of the population freaking hate Trump's guts. Even though there's tons of Americans that hate Trump, that think Trump's a nitwit, that thinks he's a moron, that thinks he's a loudmouth, bloviating dumbass, that thinks he's a dementia-addled orange retard. Even though there's tons of Americans that believe that, Trump just could not possibly lose. These MAGA people, they just live inside the MAGA bubble where they are the majority, despite overwhelming evidence they are not the majority, despite every poll showing they're not the majority. They just think they are the vast majority of the country, and everyone who's outside of their little bubble is just like this weird fringe person that is not reflective of anything in reality. And they are the true Americans, and everyone who's not in with them is a fake American, and they don't really count, and their votes really shouldn't count because they hate America or whatever. Whatever logic they apply to it. And it just gets fucking absurd.
Occurred to you to keep an open mind?
No, it's never occurred to me that there wasn't a lot of hanky-panky going on.
Interesting.
That's what I believe.
Could you...
We keep an open mind. I mean, if we see the evidence that everything was on the up and up, well, then you can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
How do I argue with the fact that there's hanky-panky on the up and up?
Well, also...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, guys, I mean, I talked a lot of shit earlier, but I wasn't aware that she was going to bring up the hanky-panky that went down. You know, there wasn't a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff wasn't on the up and up, you guys. There was a lot of hanky-panky. So, look, I didn't know she was a legal expert of that caliber that was going to, you know, put forth those advanced arguments. And I feel like I kind of painted myself into a corner now because I didn't know that she was going to bring up the hanky-panky. Now that I do know that, I see that I really am out of my depth here, and I shouldn't have even attempted to tackle this, because clearly this woman knows exactly what she's talking about. So we got to be careful proceeding. You know, I got to be very, very, reserved with my declarations, and I don't want to say anything that could possibly be misinterpreted because, we're dealing with some advanced high-level arguments now.
So what they're accusing him of is trying to plant fake slates of electors in a few different states. So like Georgia, they're saying he tried to replace the real electors with fake electors. And then there's also a phone call that you can listen to of him calling Raffensperger, the Secretary of State.
The electors, that is a normal procedure. If you think that something is going to be proved, that there was riffraff in there.
Oh my God, the riffraff argument, dude. I mean, guys, should I tap out? Because, I mean, like, hanky-panky, riffraff, I mean, they're bringing the fucking big guns out there now. Like, they're destroying this lib cuck, you know what I mean? Like, I was on this dude's side when he was winning the debate, but I didn't, you know, they were just going easy on him. They were toying with the kid. But now they're bringing out the heavy-hitting fucking stuff, you know?
And it turns out the other way. You have to have electors in place, ready to go if that should happen. That's all he did.
That is not all Trump did, and nothing about it was a normal procedure. Just look at the coup memos crafted by John Eastman, which laid out a roadmap for Mike Pence to...
Look, dude, I mean, nice cope, but you were destroyed, okay? Like, come on. Just settle down. I mean, she verbally destroyed you, dude. You think some kind of fucking memos documenting whatever that's gonna stand up in court when she stands up and she's like, "But Your Honor, hanky panky, up and up, riff raff," you know, the judge is gonna be like, "I find in favor of Donald Trump and declare him president for life."
Throw out the results of the election. Donald Trump pressured Mike Pence into doing this, but Pence refused.
I mean, do you guys trust Mike Pence at all? Even Mike Pence told them there's not enough evidence.
I don't trust Mike Pence.
You don't trust Mike Pence? Okay.
No.
Even his Attorney General, Bill Barr, who was his sword and shield, came out saying there's not enough evidence for it. You don't trust Bill Barr?
No.
You don't trust the FBI or the DOJ? Does it ever worry you guys when every single person in every single institution...
I mean, like, here's the thing that's crazy. These people think Trump is the ultimate leader, and yet so many of the people that Trump appointed, they have no confidence in. Like, they don't trust Mike Pence, but Donald Trump literally had Mike Pence as his vice president, which is like, hey, if anything happens to me, you're in good hands with this guy. So... I mean, at that point, even if you think Trump is great, you'd have to admit he's a terrible judge of character, right? Because he kept putting people in positions of power that later went on to betray him by daring to tell the truth.
Institution in America is against you, and the only person you can look up to is Donald Trump.
That's not happening.
It's not.
There are tons of... You look at Trump
Like who else?
ratings.
Who, like Mike Lindell? Who else? I'm saying, who do you...
Not Rudy. I mean...
Rudy Giuliani is...
I'm not keeping track of every elected official and whether they support Trump or not.
See, this is my problem.
I feel like you... Well, if you're not doing that, it's just because you're too lazy to do that. Because I feel like there definitely is a Trump purity test with you people. Considering that you just said that you don't fucking trust Mike Pence. You don't trust... By the way, I don't trust him either. But I don't trust him because he's a right-wing fucking nut. Just like I don't trust Trump for that reason.
You look at Rudy Giuliani as a trusted source of information, but then when you have...
Let me tell you about Mike Pence.
Jesus was a poor judge of character for associating with Judas. I mean, yeah. Especially being a supposedly omnipotent God being. You'd think he would not hang around with some backstabber that would fucking... you know, betray him for a few fucking shillings or whatever.
Say he's credible?
Yeah.
Okay, when he was governor in Indiana...
I'm from Indiana. I don't think he's always...
Yeah, so you know, he flipped on the religious freedoms for business owners.
I get that. I'm no fan of Mike Pence, but in my view, what happened on January 6th, Donald Trump asked Mike Pence to stop the peaceful transfer of power, right? He asked him to not certify the results on January 6th.
He asked him to take the states that said that they think that there is a problem, they want time to check it out.
Right.
He asked him to give them time to check it out.
They did. This
He
is
did.
after all of the court cases that were
did.
rejected
Before he
repeatedly. Yeah.
certified, they didn't check out anything. He just went ahead and certified it, regardless of what corruption was being shown out there.
Ladies, this is a gotcha interview. They're trying to make you look like idiots.
Oh, don't worry. This guy doesn't have to lift a finger to make these bitches look like idiots. All he has to do is ask a few very pertinent questions and maybe throw in an occasional little factoid for them, and they'll do the rest themselves. Like, all this kid has to do, I keep calling him a kid. He's not like a kid, but whatever. I'm old enough to get away with it at this point. This kid just has to throw these some rope, and they will start building a noose and gallows to hang themselves with. Like, he doesn't have to do much to make these women look like idiots, okay? It's pretty, they're doing a fine job all on their own.
We're having a real conversation about the election fraud.
It's very slanted. It's
very
not,
liberal.
It's not a neutral one.
Yeah, but we're literally sitting here having an exchange of ideas, which is one of the best parts of America, is that two people from
Yeah, play the patriotism card on them. That might have worked a few years ago when these people actually gave a shit about America, but nowadays they just care about Trump. They don't really give a fuck about anything beyond Trump. It doesn't go any further than that. They don't want a better America for themselves. They don't want a better America for anyone else. They just want Trump because he's their new Christ. Somehow.
different sides can talk to each other and try to reach a middle ground. It's pretty clear what we're doing here. We're having like an exchange of ideas. I don't think I'm trying to get you.
It's pretty clear where you're coming from.
In an interview, when you want somebody.
So what? Well, it's pretty clear where you're coming from, You're trying to have your own opinions and stuff, and we don't cotton to that around these parts, so hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
Somebody's opinion, you listen to their opinion, and then you don't give your opinion.
Well, that's not what we're doing here.
So you said you wanted to interview them, not debate them.
The point of our show is to find middle ground.
So the funny part is, we told them we were going to push back and try to find middle ground. We always prime people.
Yeah, I would say that no, I don't really feel like this guy is trying to find middle ground. I feel like he is doing what that other woman said he's doing, which is trying to make these people look like idiots. But here's the thing. They are idiots. They are idiots, and it's very easy to make them look like idiots with even the simplest of questions because there's no intellectual defense of the stuff they're saying. They can't actually mount a cogent defense to anything he's saying. They don't have anything to put forth. They don't have even like a line of sophistry they can put forth. All they really can do is just, display their ass for the world to see. So I think that is exactly what he's looking for. But I don't think there's any problem with that. I think showcasing just how ignorant these people are is a very valuable service to the world and American politics in general.
Was I being too heated or anything? I thought we were having
A little bit, yeah.
You were pushing back pretty hard.
Yeah.
Man, these people, on top of everything else, gigantic, blubbering fucking pussies. They thought that was too heated. They literally are so easily triggered by the slightest disagreement. These people, they live in a bubble, and if you try to inject anything in that bubble that doesn't belong, they start to seize upon it like white blood cells upon a virus. They cannot take disagreement. They cannot abide by disagreement. They cannot tolerate the least little bit of pushback to anything they're saying. And even if you just ask them a pointed question, even if you just try to get them to elucidate their worldview, like using the Socratic method, inquiring deeper and deeper as to how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? They can't handle it. They're little fucking pea brains that are just mushy and fucking atrophied, just can't take it. And they just go, pfft.
That's what we're supposed to,
But that's not what you told them you were going to do. You didn't say, hey, do you want to debate some issues with me? Do you guys want to?
I felt like I had a staunch liberal interviewing me.
You're the interviewer. You don't get to come at them in an interview with your biases and your opinions and throw that back
Well,
at
I'm the interviewer, so we can do it however we want to do. And when the point of our show is to find middle ground.
So I was asking these ladies questions in the most gentle way possible, just trying to...
Yeah, I mean, if they couldn't handle that, come on, whatever. Please, TJ, you're getting very heated. I know. I mean, there's nothing more to say about that. This kid's been pretty much shut down at this point, but shut down for no real reason because, like, the stuff that he was saying was, I mean, I don't know if I'd exactly say it was gentle, but it certainly was not any sort of crazy, in-your-face, confrontational interview style, right? We're the snowflakes, though, TJ. I know, it's crazy. It's just, like, hard to fathom how easily triggered those people are. How unwilling to engage with even very mild disagreement they are, to the point where they, like, if you just ask them, like, simple follow-up questions that any person should be able to answer about their beliefs, they completely fold like lawn chairs and, you know, start crying about how it was too heated and we just felt like you were ganging up on us. Ugh.